All right, it is that time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Fellowship and Learning on Wednesday. We are now at week 3 of our series, Be the Church, Opening Hearts and Hands. And the focus of this series of gatherings and talks has been opportunities to learn a little bit more about some agencies and ministries in our community and how we might plug into and help to partner with and participate alongside of those agencies and ministries. A couple of weeks ago, we heard about COPE and learned about the great ministry that they're doing. And then last week, as we came together, we learned about Laundry Love, and just blew my mind to hear some of those figures and statistics with regard to how far their ministry reaches and how vital and important a ministry it is. Tonight, we will be hearing from Steve Phillips, who's going to be speaking with us about My Father's House. Of course, as has been the case with the ministries that we've learned about thus far, quite a few folks in this congregation have familiarity with My Father's House, but this is for the benefit of those who don't know about it, or who would like to know more about it, or who would like to discover ways that they can participate with My Father's House, because it is a vital ministry, especially in the cold months here in Springfield and in Robertson County. Next week, we will be finishing up our series by hearing from a representative from Open Door Pregnancy Center. So I hope that you'll join us next Wednesday at 6 as we wrap up this series. But at this time, I'm going to invite Steve Phillips to come and share about the ministry of My Father's House. So let's give Steve a round of applause for welcome.
I feel like I'm in a Baptist church with everybody back there. Thank you, Pastor. As he said, most of you know me, so I just got to go and be redundant, but I'm Steve Phillips. I'm one of the board, not one of 9 board directors with My Father's House. My Father's House mission has been in existence. This is our 8th season. A lot of things have changed over those 8 years. If any of you were involved in the early going, when it first started, it would move from church to church every week. And now we have a building that we've purchased, or in the process of making payments on it. And so we have a permanent home. And because of that, we're trying to add to what we do in the ministry. I'll tell you up front, and I've spoken to a ladies group here, Miss Donna, in November, December. It's going to be kind of the same thing, so I apologize. But there's 2 things that I want you to get at least 2 things from what we talk about tonight. One is, if you go out in the community and ask most people, what is My Father's House mission? Most of them will tell you we're a homeless shelter or a cold weather shelter. I'm going to tell you we're a lot more than that, and I'm going to give you examples of that. The other thing I want you to leave here knowing is that this is not a Steve Phillips deal. This is not a Donna or Pam or Jennifer deal, or the Aries. It's not their Avery. How you pronounce your last name? Avery. It's not their mission. This is God's mission. And I'm going to give you some examples to show you it's not us. It's what God is doing in the community. And I have seen so many things happen, particularly over the last 2 years, that it just boggles the mind. So what I want to start off with is I try to get out of the habit of calling My Father's House mission a homeless shelter. It's a mission. We believe in God. We believe in teaching the people that come through the door about God and about Jesus Christ, and that is our primary focus. We use the shelter part of it as a way to open the door to get to them. I will tell you that our devotions is the thing that I look forward to the most every night. I have heard devotions that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And I'll just fess up. I've done it in front of Baptist pastors, and I'll do it here. I'll fess up. I have felt the Holy Spirit in that little room more times than I have ever felt in 68 years of going to a Baptist church. I'm just going to be honest with you. But how do I know that's God? Well, number one, he's talking to me, because I usually go home with a better understanding than I got there with. Number two is I watch how the people change from the time they first come in the door, and you can watch it over time. If you come in often enough and you watch them and you get to know them, you will start recognizing that, they at first you think they're not listening to the devotion, and they're not. But as time goes on and different people come in and everybody has a different approach in how they do the devotion, which is great because it keeps their attention. It's not mundane. It's not, the same thing over and over. We've already had one individual that rededicated his life and was baptized this year. In the past, we've had 2 or 3 people that were saved and baptized. The first year I got involved was the 2021 season when it was at Epiphany Baptist Church. And they had a young man that got saved and was baptized, and less than a week later he died at work. He had a seizure and he had a history of seizures, but he had one at work and did not survive. But he was saved. A few weeks after that, we had another one that was saved, and he was partially blind. He really didn't need to be driving. And he left a mission one morning, and he turned in front of an 18-wheeler and did not survive the accident. So there is purpose, and God is using my father's house. I'll tell you that 2 winters ago, I tend to, when devotion is going on, if you've been in the building, I stand up near the door because I know Satan is going to figure out a way to try to interrupt devotion every night. It never fails, every night. Somebody's going to knock on the door in the middle of devotion. Something's going to happen. And sure enough, that particular night, somebody knocked on the door. Well, Brian Holman with Holman Jewelers was between me and the door, so I let him answer the door. And typically we don't take clothing donations into the building because we are very limited in our storage space. We ask people to take them to Cope, and with Cope, we've got an arrangement with them that if we send our donations to Cope, if we have somebody comes in and needs clothing, we write them a voucher. They go to Cope. If Cope has what they need, they give it to them for free, okay, which helps us tremendously. But that night, somebody knocked on the door, and Brian opened the door, and he kept standing there, and I turned around and looked at him, and he said, "You need to come here." I walked over to the door, and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "You need to go outside and talk to this guy." I said, "Oh, okay." So I walk outside and said, "Sir, what can I do to help you?" He said, I've got some shoes I need to donate. Something told me to keep my mouth shut. And I stood there and I looked at him and I said, "Exactly what do you mean, some shoes?" He said, "A carload of shoes." I said, "How did you come about a carload of shoes?" He said, "I was just in Walmart. They had all this shoes marked down to $1 a pair." He said, "I got me a bunch of buggies and I took every one of them out, and I'm bringing them to you." I thought, well, I don't know where to put that. But the man went to that kind of effort. I'm not going to say no. We brought them in after devotion, stacked them up on the church pew we've got there at the front. And Sheila Bird was giving the devotion that night. And there was a couple in there that had told her, and I had no idea about this, but they told her their feet was very cold. They just couldn't keep their feet warm. They didn't have the right kind of shoes for wintertime. After devotion was over with, we walked over there and looked at the church pew, seen all that, and we brought them up one at a time. Every homeless person in the building that night, there was a pair of shoes exactly their size. Every one, no exception. And I didn't even realize that was going on. Sheila was kind of doing all of that, and she told me 2 days later about it. And I just, all I could do was smile because I knew God had laid that out for us. That wasn't us, that was God. Pastor, I could sit here and talk for 2 or 3 hours. But I'll tell you, some of you know that we have had some issues over the last 2 years with the city and the zoning and everything with the building. We got to the point we thought we were going to put a sprinkler system in. That was all we needed, and we had somebody who was going to donate the material and the labor. And lo and behold, it turned into $150,000 later. Well, we couldn't put $150,000 in a building we didn't own. So we went to the owner and said, will you sell it to us? He said, sure, I'll sell it to you. Well, there's one problem. We don't have no credit. We're a nonprofit. We don't have credit. He said, that's all right. Make a down payment, and I'll owner finance the balance over 10 years. I said, okay, we can do that. We got to within a week of closing, and I called him up, and I said, we ain't going to be able to close next Friday. He said, why not? I said, I ain't got the money for the down payment. He said, well, okay, let's just pray about it. And I said, all right, that's probably the only thing we can do. Well, we prayed about it. Within 24 hours, I had a check for $10,000. I had a check for $15,000. I had another check for $10,000. It just kept coming in $10,000 and $15,000 chunks. So we bought the building. We made the down payment. Well, now that took all of our money. We didn't have the money to go make all the modifications to the building. That was another $150,000. We didn't have it. So we started praying about it and started talking to people, and all of a sudden the same thing. Right at the end of the year, here starts coming these big checks, to the point that we told the contractor, go, turn your workers loose. We can pay for it now. Then January hit last year. If you remember last January, about 2 weeks earlier than this, it was January the 12th, about the same thing that's fixing to happen this weekend happened last year. We didn't have nowhere to put people. The building was tore all to pieces. Ryan Martin with the city called me and says, is there anything you can do? I said, I don't know. So we talked to a couple of churches. They said, oh, you can come and use our church and use it as a shelter. Well, that was before they went and told their lawyer what they was fixing to do, and the lawyer said, oh, no, you're not. You're not going to do that. Okay, so there was nothing we could do. Well, we sat down and started looking, and we had to make a decision. Do we use the money that we had to go forward with the modifications, or do we get these people out of the cold weather? We decided that God gave us that money. It wasn't ours. We were going to use it to put people in a motel in Springfield. We put them in a motel for 3 weeks in January, 1 week in February, 67 different people at the price of just under $32,000. And when we finished that, you know what? Within a week, we had an auction, a charity auction. Some of you attended that. And we raised $50,000 in one night. God not only replenished the $30,000, he gave us back more. I don't know how many of you have been to Facebook. If you go to our Facebook page and look for videos by a gentleman by the name of Jake Duffer. Jake is the one that introduced me to my father's house in 2020. At that time, I was I had just come back to the area. I grew up in Ridgetop. I moved to Georgia for almost 40 years. I came back to take care of my mother, and I kind of needed something to do. So I went to the Hope Center and to see about volunteering at the Hope Center. And for some reason I didn't feel comfortable with it. And the guy says, well, what is it you're looking to do? I said, I'd like to get involved in the homeless community. I don't know how. I don't even know if we have a homeless problem in Robertson County. I've been gone almost 40 years. He said, okay. We were walking out of the house. Jake was sitting on the patio that day doing his Bible study, and he overheard the conversation. And he turned around and looked at me and says, you want to get involved in the homeless community? And I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, my counselor here at the Hope Center is involved with a place called My Father's House. And about that time, that individual come walking out of the Hope Center right behind me. Okay, so I started talking to him. I started going to Epiphany Baptist Church once or twice a week. And I just went in and sat down in the corner of the room and watched, because I really wasn't sure what was going on and whether I wanted to be a part of that or not. And I did that for most of the winter of 2020 and 2021. A few months after I got started doing that, I looked up one day and I seen this guy sitting at the table at the mission. I knew him, but I couldn't remember from where. So I finally went over and said, do I know you? And he started laughing. He said, I'm the one that introduced you to Matt and got you involved in My Father's House. Well, Jake and I became very close friends. And if you go, you just need to go look at it, at the videos where he gives his testimony. Jake taught me a lot about the homeless community. He taught me that people are not always what everybody has a stigma of what the homeless are. Some of that is true. A lot of it's not. Most of them just need somebody to talk to and give them guidance. Some of them, their parents were homeless. They know no other way of life. And until somebody sits down and invests a little time in them, they can't change. They don't know how to change. Okay? So when I tell you that My Father's House is more than a cold weather shelter, that's what I mean. If we don't sit down and spend time with them, we're not going to fix the problem. The problem's going to keep getting bigger. We've got to change something somewhere to stop this trend. And unfortunately, a lot of it is mental illness, in which ends up, everybody thinks drugs lead to mental illness. I about come to the conclusion it's the other way around. The mental illness leads them into drugs because they're looking for an escape. They don't know how to get away from what they're afraid of, so they go to drugs. Lost my train of thought. A homeless shelter, and some of you heard me say this, it's kind of like a garbage dump, right? You want a place to take your garbage. You know we got to have a place to take our garbage, but you don't want it next to your house. Well, that's the same way with a homeless shelter. And we've got people here in Springfield that don't believe we have a homeless problem in Springfield. And they're wrong. They're just flat wrong. All you got to do is drive up and down Memorial Boulevard. If you can't see it, you're blind. Okay? If we don't do something to change that, it's not going to get any better. And our goal is, we can't change everybody. Some people, they've been on the streets for so long, that's the way they choose to live. The guy that got saved and baptized a few weeks ago, he's been on the streets for over 10 years. He told me, I said, look, I know you're trying to do better, and we'll do everything we can to help you. And he said, but I don't want that kind of help. I want to live on the street. I don't want a house payment. I don't want a car payment. I don't want all these other issues that come with life. He said, when I'm homeless, I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay for my house payment. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to put gas in my car. We're probably never going to be able to change his outlook. Maybe we keep praying about it. Maybe we can. But there are some that we can help. We've got two individuals right now, a man and a woman that's 62 years old. And if they go on the street, I don't know if they lost her. Donna, have you or Pam sat and talked to them enough to know what Deborah and Randy's situation, how they got to where they are? Yeah. But they're 62 years old. I don't think either one of them can read or write. And they cannot take care of themselves. Somebody has to give the lady a bath, a shower. You literally have to go in there with her and help her wash herself. She doesn't even know how to wash herself in the shower. And we're trying our best to get them into assisted living. They need assisted living. If they go out on the street, they will not survive. They have no chance. So we are working as hard as we can with them to get them into assisted living. We've got a place that says they will take them. And now we're in the process of getting their primary care doctor to fill out the paperwork saying they can't function by themselves. And then we can, if they'll agree to go, we can get them into assisted living where they can be taken care of. Okay. When I say we're more than a cold weather shelter, that's making a difference. Okay. That's the kind of thing we want to move forward with doing. We've had donations this year that's had specifically written on it, use it to help families or help others. Not to go into the general fund of My Father's House, but to help individuals, because we've never had a budget that we could take money and go help this family in their situation. Now we have a fund like that, and we can go help people. We've got a family that's here in Springfield right now, a family of 5, a husband and wife, one of them's mother, and it's a 7 and a 5-year-old, I think. Came here, moved here from North Carolina, I believe. They tried to buy a house on some website, paid $6,000, which was all they had, and it was a scam. She got a job. She's training as a general manager at Dollar Tree. He's working at Dollar General, and they come by the mission every night, and we feed that family. We give them 5 meals to go every night. We've been doing that now for 2.5 months.
3.
But, yeah.
And they take breakfast also.
Yep. And we're praying that they get. Problem is, she's never had any credit, and they can't make the payment on rent without both of them's income. So when they go for a credit check, they fail the credit check because she's never had any credit. But what we've told them is, look, we now have this fund that's set aside, and when you get a place to rent, we won't pay your deposit, because if you bail out, we don't get the deposit back. But we'll pay you first month's rent. Okay? That's making a difference. That's what we're about. And what we need, as much as anything, is we need people that will come in and sit down and talk to people like this family, or the couple that can't read or write, that can't take care of themselves. If you've been in the building at night between 5 and 8 o'clock, it's I won't even call it mild chaos. Some nights it's beyond mild chaos. But we need people to come in and just sit down and talk with them. We've got I call it a prayer room. Some people call it a conference room. You can go in there and sit down with them, talk to them, try to learn something about them, build a relationship so that they will open up to you and you can learn what it is that they need. And if you can get back to one of the board members, then we can start putting the things in motion to try to help them. Okay? Like I said, I could go on and on. I'm just going to give you some quick numbers here. So we were not open last year at the building at all. The year before that, we served 67 different people. We provided 1,001 bed nights, and we served 1,548 meals. Like I said, in January, at the I'm not sure I have that number. I think I left. Let's see. No, that was just last January. If you take just the 2 months of December and January, we've had 44 different people come through, 400 bed nights, and 1,035 meals served. So if you look at the 5 months, again, the 5 months is 4 weeks and 3 weeks in January, 1 week in February at the motel, November and December at the building. We've served 103 different people, 1,611 bed nights, 3,154 meals. And 3 years ago, we were doing like 880 bed nights, and we've doubled that in 3 years. So much so that we are out of capacity on men's beds right now. We have no more beds. Okay, so what we need for my Father's house is, first of all, we need your prayer. I'll be honest with you, this has been a very challenging season. We've had, I just thought last year was challenging, going through the issues with the building. I'm almost ready to ask God, let's go back to that. Because every time we ran into a roadblock, people would say, well, what are you going to do? I said, well, we're going to pray. That's all we can do. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know who to go talk to get this done. Every time, God provided what we needed and more. Every time. In the years past, we've had issues of people coming in with severe alcoholism, severe drug addiction. We really haven't had that this year. I mean, we've had some that they'll come in, you tell they've been drinking during the day. We really haven't, would y'all agree? We haven't had that problem this year. But out of the 18 that we have there tonight, over half of them have mental issues. And when I say mental issues, I'm not talking about they're crazy, they're going to go out and kill somebody. They can't think through a situation with logic. They can't. And we're not trained to deal with that. We don't know how to deal with that, and we're struggling. I'll just be honest with you, we're struggling because this is a new territory for us. I know God's preparing us for something. I don't know what it is. We're going to have to just pray about it and watch for it. But we need your prayers because the board is struggling because of the number of mental issues that we're trying to help people get into assisted living. We're trying to help them get into counseling for mental illness. We've got one in the hospital right now that's being evaluated. I thought she was having a nervous breakdown last Saturday night. I didn't understand that was mental illness. I didn't understand what I was looking at, what I was watching. Okay? It's a challenge, and we need your prayers. We need your prayers. We need you to physically be in the building to help us sit down and talk to these people so that we can try to understand what their problem is and how we can help them go forward. Okay? Any questions?
Steve, would you share about, you put on Facebook about the need for a generator? I don't know if you've got one. And a shed for the back.
Yeah, just with the cold weather coming in this weekend, we're trying to put a contingency plan in place. With it being more ice, what they're predicting, than snow, it's at least my experience in Ridgetop, where I grew up, is you're going to lose your power if you have a lot of ice with tree limbs falling on the power lines. So we've been trying to find a generator today. Walker's Hardware has offered to loan us a generator for 5 days. Blake Pierce from the EMA called me when I was on my way here. He said, hey, did you find a generator? And I said, yes, sir, I think we did. He said, well, just so you know, I've got one that'll be your backup if something happens with that. So, again, we just started looking today, and by the end of the day, God provided double what we were looking for. We had the shed that Jennifer's talking about. I'll just go ahead and lay my dirty laundry out here in front of everybody. Right around Christmas, we had one of our chaperones say, I think I got bit by a bed bug last night. And he was the only one that said anything about it. So I went on Amazon and ordered this bed bug stuff, and I treated where he was sleeping, and he didn't ever say anything else, so I didn't think a whole lot about it. And so we decided, well, we probably should look into this. So we hired a professional to come in and inspect the building. He found 3 dead bed bugs in the building. We didn't find any live bed bugs. The 3 we found were dead. We said, it doesn't matter. If they're dead, that means they were alive at some point. We're going to treat this just like we're fully infested and they're all over the place. And we cleaned the building out, took everything out of the building. Several people, Miss Donna and Miss Pam, have been gracious enough. We spent the last 2 weeks laundering and drying everything to get the temperature up high enough to kill any bed bugs if there were any in there. And we had the professionals come in and exterminate the building. We steamed all the beds, the bedposts. We steamed the mattresses. We changed all the mattresses out. We got new mattresses donated new to us. They came from Vanderbilt Hospital, where they came from originally. We've had people donate new sofas. We throw both sofas out in a dumpster. And we've taken all of our guests' belongings, and right now they're in what I call a Jolly Green Giant. We built a temporary shelter behind the building, and we only let them bring in the clothes that they need to take a shower and change into clean clothes. We leave everything else outside. So in the process of that, we started researching, and we talked to Nashville Rescue Mission, said, you're way bigger than we are. We have 22 beds. I don't know how many you've got down there. How do you keep bed bugs out of the Nashville Rescue Mission? And he said, well, what we do is we put lockers back behind the building. We built a lean-to over them. I have to move. Built a lean-to over them, and we let them put their personal belongings in the locker. They can only bring in 1 change of clothes. He said, I highly recommend you go to that. So we're looking for, I don't want to just set their lockers outside. I want to put them in a shed. And so we've been looking for a shed. We've found some options, but the option we're going with as of about 2 hours ago is we're going to rent a pod for like $205 a month until we get through this winter. And Apex Realty and Auction is going to build us a shed this summer. So we're going to rent a pod. We've got lockers that we've been going all around the county. People have been donating lockers to us. We'll set the lockers in the shed, and we'll give them a lock and let them lock their belongings up in the locker. Then at 8 o'clock, when we lock the doors, we lock the door to the shed so nobody can use it as a drug drop or whatever else they think they might do back there. And we're going to place it so that we got a security camera zoomed right in on the door. So, and then the next morning when they get up, we'll unlock it at 6 o'clock. They leave the building at 7. We'll go back there and lock the shed back. But, so, yeah, all that's happened in the last 2 hours.
And if it's really cold, this shelter actually stays open for volunteers. And everybody's a volunteer except for 1 person now.
That's right. She puts in about 3 hours a night, four nights a week. Yeah, but everybody's a volunteer except for her. She's the first paid employee we've had. As Jennifer said, starting Friday night at 5 o'clock through Wednesday morning at 8 a.m., we're going to keep the shelter open 24/7. I mean, there's like 3 days it won't even get above freezing. It won't even get to 30 degrees. And typically, like this morning, we normally close at 7. We stayed open to 9 so that they could go to the library. The library is very, very good about allowing them to come and stay there during the day and stay out of the weather. When weather gets bad and school's closed, the library don't open. School's closed, library closes. On Sundays, the library doesn't open to 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So with everything getting as cold as it is and as bad as it is, 1, we don't want them out walking around on ice. 2, just like this couple I was telling you about, they won't survive in that kind of temperature. So we're in the process of getting enough volunteers. Now we've got the nighttime covered. What we need is people. Like if I'm there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we don't like to put one person there by themselves. We need to have a second person so that if somebody says, oh, he abused me, then we've got a second volunteer that's there that can stand up and say, no, he didn't. That isn't what happened. Okay, now we've never had that happen, but why even put yourself in that situation? To just have two people there is every hour of the day. And so there's some slots during the daytime that we could use some help, this starting Friday night through Wednesday morning of next week, at a minimum, is what we're looking to do.
I want everybody to thank the board members. They work themselves to death. Yeah, I talked to Wayne today, one yesterday. I could not understand them because they gotten so sick, they are just worn themselves out. So if anybody can volunteer some time, we've got wonderful board members.
Thank you. Any other questions? It's an easy group. All of y'all, most of y'all already know. At least five of you have been there before. So I could have let y'all make the presentation. All right. Thank you.
Should have said this at the outset. Again, thank you, Steve, for sharing with us. Should have said this at the outset. On the table in the back, we've got some snacks there. If you'd like to pick up any, the monetary contributions for those snacks go to our children's ministry. And we also have a basket on the table by the door if you'd like to offer any sort of contribution to my Father's house and the ministry that they do there. Again, thank you so much for sharing and just making us aware of the good work that my Father's house does, and really helping to reframe it as not just a shelter, but really a mission, a place where lives are being touched and changed. I think that's extraordinary and commendable work. So, again, we thank you, Steve, for coming. Next Wednesday evening, we'll be hearing from Open Door Pregnancy Center, and that will round out our series. But let's have a word of prayer before we dismiss this evening. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to be together and to learn more about my Father's house mission. We thank you for the excellent work that they've done in this community for many years. And we pray that you would continue, by your grace, to strengthen that work, to strengthen the hearts and hands that contribute to that work, God, and to allow the mission to flourish as a place where folk find not only shelter, but community and understanding and the opportunity to encounter you and to find a better and healthier path for their lives. God, we're grateful for the board members of my Father's house, the volunteers whose participation is integral, for those who contribute their prayers, their finances, or other means of assisting. And we simply pray that that contribution would continue, and that the ministry would continue to grow and to flourish, and that, above all else, you would be the one who is seen and glorified through the work of this vital ministry. So send us forth now with your blessing to love and to serve, and as the wintry weather moves in this weekend, we do pray that you would keep us all, particularly those who are most vulnerable, safe and warm. And we offer you all thanks and all praise in Christ's name. Amen. Thank you all. Have a good night.